Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Punjabi Hari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jai Mr. Paramahansa Parvajikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. I'm always amazed at the fluctuating attendance at this. We had you weren't here, but we had 10 people, 12 people, just like yesterday, day before. I don't know what it was. Was it Diwali? Maybe it was Diwali. Yeah, was it? Okay. Let's see. We are on page 314. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 30th day of October 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 7, entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. Text number 9, page 314. Punyo Ganda Pativyancha Tejas Chasmi Vibhavasau Jivanam Sarvabhuteshu Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu Punyo Ganda Pativyancha Tejas Chasmi Vibhavaso Jivanam Sarvabhuteshu Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu Punyogandha Pativyancha Tejaschasmi Vibhavaso Jivanam Sarvabhuteshu Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu Punyogandha Pativyancha Tejas chasmi vibhavaso jivanam sarva bhuteshu tapas chasmi tapasvishu. Anyone else want to try? Okay. Punya, original, gandha, fragrance, prithivyan, in the earth, cha, also, tejaha, heat, cha, also, asmi, I am, vibhavaso, in the fire, jivanam, life, sarva, in all, bhuteshu, living entities. Tapaha, penance, cha, also, asmi, I am, tapasvishu, in those who practice penance. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat and fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. Purport. Punya means that which is not decomposed. Punya is original. Everything in the material world has a certain fragrance, a flavor or fragrance, as the flavor and fragrance in a flower, or in the earth, in water, in fire, and air, etc. The uncontaminated flavor, the original flavor, which permeates everything, is Krishna. Similarly, everything has a particular original taste, and this taste can be changed by the mixture of chemicals. So everything original has some smell, some fragrance, some taste. Vibhavasu means fire. Without fire, we cannot run factories, we cannot cook, etc. And that fire is Krishna. The heat in the fire is Krishna. According to Vedic medicine, indigestion is due to a low temperature in the belly. So even for digestion, fire is needed. In Krishna consciousness, we become aware that earth, water, fire, air, and every active principle, all chemicals and all material elements, are due to Krishna. The duration of man's life is also due to Krishna. Therefore, by the grace of Krishna, man can prolong his life or diminish it. So Krishna consciousness is active in every sphere. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Milatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So in this section, Krishna is identifying himself with various experiences that we have with our senses contacting the material elements that he mentioned before. He began this section by analyzing our environment: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. These 8, Krishna says, are my separated material energies. Now, we experience these every day. We're living in. This is constituents of our environment. So that part isn't a mystery. What's news is that these are all energies of God, that they're connected to Him. And in our ordinary life, our conditioned life, we have no idea of this. We just exist. We take it for granted. This is life. This is what I am. And this is the present. Because we have no source of transcendental information, any knowledge. So the fact that Krishna is claiming these are my energies, and this knowledge is being given, it's been accepted by all of our acharyas. That's why I say the parampara. Yes, it's mysterious. We can't see God there. We can't see that it's His energy. We can see that the light and the heat are the sun's energy. That makes sense. Or fire. We can see how that's emanating energy. So the analogy can help us to understand how the supreme source of everything, which is defined as the supreme Brahman, the absolute truth, or the personality of Godhead, can be the source of all these energies that we see. So if we accept that, then we can move on, and he explains that, okay, there are these kinds of energies we can see around us. They're not alive. They're just there. But they constitute the constituents of our environment, both our personal environment, our body, and everything outside. Then, within all of them, Krishna says, there is this higher energy, which is us. We're the spirit soul, we're the Atma, the conscious principle within all of this unconscious matter, which constitutes his energy. So then you have this combination. Then he says, of these two, and there's nothing in existence besides the combination of these two energies. Now this may be also a little mysterious to say, well, there's that chair over there. There's no living entity attached to it. It's just sitting there. It was produced by a living entity. But we learn later that there are higher beings who are in control of each of these. Just like we know there's Vayu, there is Varuna, there is Surya, the sun god, right? Varuna is the water god, and there's Bhumi, the earth god. And so all of these different elements, they're also connected. In one sense, they're kind of the external body of these different deities. They're behind them. They're controlling them. So that's a combination. They're living entities, and they're, in one sense, they're connected to all of the, Bhumi's connected to all the earth, and Vayu's connected to all the air, and Varuna's connected to all the liquids like that. So there is a combination, although we can't see it. So then Krishna says, both of these energies come from me. These are my energies. Therefore, I am the source of everything. Etad yonini bhutani sarvanichu badariya. This is text number 6. All created beings have their source in these two natures. So we're one of those created beings, what we call commonly organisms. An organism is a living being with organs and some kind of body, right? Of all that is material, all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. So Krishna is connected to everything. And then he says, therefore, mattak paratanang nanyat. I think last night we had this verse, and I explained that it's one of the often quoted verses. Srila Prabhupada would quote this verse very often. Because, and as brought out in the purport, this is a direct challenge to what Prabhupada would call the Mayavadis, the Mayavad philosophy. Mayavadis means those who say, whose philosophy is, that all of this that you see, all of the variety, including those things which you place some sacred significance on, such as the holy name or the deity or any of these things, which are all, after all, in one sense, it's just sound, it's just earth, it's just, it belongs to these external energies. All of it is Maya. It's all illusory energy. The only thing that's true in all of this is Brahman, but that's just pure spirit, no varieties. If we know this prayer, Namaham Vishnu Badaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale. The second part is Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Desha Tarine. Now Prabhupada wrote this mantra, and there was no one else to do it in the early days. So what is that saying? That I offer my respects, my obeisances to this follower of Saraswati Devi, meaning Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He gives an honor to his spiritual master. Saraswati Devi, and it's A, it's not E. Saraswati means of Saraswati, the disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Many devotees just say Saraswati Devi, but it's Saraswati Devi. Now, Gauravani Pacharane, he is disseminating, preaching, Pacharane, he would translate Pacharane as preaching, it's almost a cognate there, preaching Pacharane. What is he preaching? Lord Chaitanya's words, his teachings. Lord Chaitanya's teachings constitute the foundation of this whole movement. Now, Lord Chaitanya's teachings are constituted of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, but Lord Chaitanya gave them in a special kind of way. And to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, and they've come down to us. So he's preaching the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, non-different from the teachings of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. And what is the effect? Well, Prabhupada was in the West when he wrote this. He'd been there for over a year. And so the immediate definition of his work, or his preaching work, was that he was working in the West. So he said, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pascha Desha Tarine. Pascha Desh means the Western world. That's us. Tarine, delivering the Western world from these two things. Nirvishesh and Shunyavadi. There's that word Vadi again, like Mayavadi. Vadi is kind of a shorthand meaning a philosophy. Shunya philosophy, that's Buddhism. That's the ultimate idea that ultimately there isn't anything. It's all void. The highest Buddhism is that you merge into the voidness. And in this way you break free of samsara. The Mayavadis say, no, ultimately it's not a void. The reality is Brahman, this white light, undifferentiated spirit, without any varieties. There's no person, there's no activities, there's no qualities. It's not a person. Personhood is derived from this undifferentiated Brahman. In other words, the personality of Godhead, with the form and the pastimes and everything, is less the absolute truth than this impersonal oneness that we're meant to merge into. And since we are also Brahman, the Vedic statement is Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, I am spirit. We are Brahman, we are God. We are the absolute. We just have to realize it through Gyan, you see. That's Mayavad. But Mayavad completely obviates Bhakti. Because Bhakti depends on three things that you accept as real, not that it's some imaginary thing. I'm an individual person, God is an individual person, and the relationship between the two. The Bhagavan, the Bhakta, and the Bhakti, the relationship. There's no Bhagavan out there. For them it's all Maya, it's all illusory. But the reality is this undifferentiated, impersonal oneness, which you can't love, you can't worship, you can't pray to. It's just all you can do is meditate on it and merge into it. It's like the ideal goal that you aim for is the sensory deprivation compartment. You ever see those things where you lie down and you're floating in water that's temperature controlled, 98.6 exactly, you know what I mean? So there's no sensations, there's no, you're just like floating. Ideally, they would like to have it in space where there's no gravity either, like that. But how long can you be happy like that? No relationships, no nothing. What do you do with your mind? It's insane. And so therefore, the Bhagavatam says, Yen ye vindaksha vimukta maninas. This is a prayer of the demigods. When Krishna was about to take birth, he's within the womb of Devaki, mind of Devaki. So they know that, and they come, and unseen by others, they offer these beautiful prayers. Chapter 2 of the 10th canto. And this verse is often quoted, probably. The demigods are praying to Krishna in the womb, and they're saying, besides the bhaktas, there are others, the impersonalists, who think themselves liberated. They imagine that they're liberated. Why? It's a vimukta manina. They're liberated in their mind, Yenya evindaksha vimukta maninas. Oh, lotus-eyed one. Tvayasta bhavat avishuddha buddhaya. Their intelligence is not purified. They're contaminated with the desire to be God rather than to serve God. You can see how that's an aspect of envy. So, a very few of these who adopt this philosophy, through great austerities, they can curb their senses and curb their mind and rise up to what we call the Brahma-bhuta platform. So, Aruha Kutrena. Sanskrit is such a wonderful language. This is called a onomatopoeia. It's a word that sounds like what it means. Kutrena means very severe austerities. Can you imagine what it's like to try to control the senses with no holy name, no dancing, no prasadam, no deities, no devotees, just you and your mind? How austere is that, right? Let me really burn it out. Let me go out. It's cold out. Let me go out and break the ice and swim in the Arctic. That's the thing. Because you don't have the way of sublimating all of these activities. So but a few determined Mayavadis, Aruha Krichena Parang Padam. Parang Padam means the transcendental platform of Brahman. A few can get up there. But what happens after some time up there? Patantyado. They fall down, literally fall down. That's Patantyado. Anadvita Yushmarangriya, because they're averse of worshipping your lotus feet. In other words, they have this big ego that really, that I want to be the supreme, I want to be God. And they concoct this philosophy that justifies that. But it doesn't really help purify the heart of all of these attachments. You just got one. It's called the last snare of Maya. So all of that is kind of explained, is mentioned in this purport to Mattak Paratanang Nanyat. Krishna is saying here, there's nothing superior to me. And what he means there's no incarnation superior to me. What to speak of some conception of the absolute like the impersonal. I'm the final goal. He said, Mattak Paratanang Nanyat Kinchadasida. Everything is strung on me like pearls are strung on a thread. Meaning that Krishna is also the substrate here. Don't forget he expands as the super soul in every atom and in every heart. So this is what it means to be omnipresent. You know, there's these three characteristics in Western theology of God. Omnipotent, all-powerful, omniscient, all-knowing, and omnipresent, all-pervasive, everywhere. So Krishna has those, certainly, but he has much more. But in his omnipresent and omniscient aspects, he's the super soul. So he's sustaining everything. And in this way, but we don't see him. Just like the thread that's of a high-class pearl necklace, you don't see the thread, right? If you see the thread, it's we used to call it in our day 5 and dime. You remember the 5 and dime? This is we call it the dollar store. You got it at the dollar store. Used to be 5 cents, 10 cents. Now that 10 cents is worth $1 or more. I mean, inflation. So anyway, so then we went on to text 8, in which Krishna says, okay, now I've given you the basic information. Now how do you apply it? When you experience any of these sensations of your senses contacting these objects that I just outlined, earth, water, fire, air, ether, what will you experience? You taste and touch and smell and fragrance. So he's just saying, all of those that you experience, remember that I'm there, that's me. Of a taste of water, I am the taste of water. I am the light of the sun and the moon. I'm the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and the ability in man. In other words, all of these things we live with instinctively. We don't even think about them. But we should think about them and connect these experiences to Krishna. It says they're made possible by Krishna's energy, and I'm experiencing them through the Krishna's energy, and he's present. He's giving me the consciousness by which he's everywhere. So this is, we don't have to go to Himalayas to remember Krishna. We just have to remember these verses. If we can remember these verses, then we can constantly be reminded of Krishna wherever we go. Now, practically speaking, that's not so easy. But when we have the added understanding that in our lives, we should try to connect as much of that energy to Krishna as possible. That's what the process of bhakti is. The sound. Okay, every sound, Shabda K simply means sound and ether, is Krishna. But the special sound that really reminds us of Krishna, that's even more, Krishna's present, like the holy name or these verses. Why do we take so much trouble to chant these verses? Even imperfectly, it's okay. But we're making the effort. Because Krishna spoke these verses. Each one of them is saturated with spiritual energy. We're contacting Krishna. He's absolute. Even though it was spoken 5,000 years ago, it's as cogent and as impactful upon us as we want it to be. We can be with Krishna on the battlefield, and Arjuna on the battlefield, if we truly have faith in these words. And we understand, this is the transcendental vibration. There are trillions of vibrations that will distract you from Krishna, but there's also many that will connect you to Krishna. So whereas every sound is Krishna, Shabda K simply means sound and ether, but those sounds which especially remind us of Krishna, they are a lifeline, like the ones that explain that all the sounds are Krishna. So let's go, now the present verse, he's dealing with now the fragrance. He's going through all the senses here. There's a certain fragrance. Gandha means fragrance. Now, just to clarify, Prabhupada would often use the word flavor to mean fragrance. That is not used in American English, but it is in British English, which is what Prabhupada spoke of, what he learned. The flavor of a flower, and that's why there's this kind of this confusion here. The certain flavor or fragrance as the flavor and fragrance of a flower. Prabhupada said flavor, but it obviously meant fragrance. So the editor didn't know quite what to do with it, so he added in the fragrance. Well, to clarify, we've taken the flavor out now, because flavor, just in the West, it means flavor. I'll tell you a little funny story. When I was working on Krishna book, this is back in, I did it here 25 years ago. I was working in 95. I lived in a different place on Grand. And so what we did, actually I completed it. I went to Sweden to complete, because it was printed in Sweden for the UK, and then it came. But I was working on it here also, is that uniquely among all of Prabhupada's books, we have a vast majority of the tapes, the actual recordings of Prabhupada dictating it. And the reason we do, Jadharani, the artist, bless her heart, she's working in Boston. The tapes were sent, mostly Prabhupada was dictating them in LA, and then he would send them to Boston to be transcribed. And the artists were also there. At that time, there were many fewer artists, but the main ones were still there. Jadharani, Muralidhar, Parikit, and others were doing artwork. So she wanted to hear the pastimes when she did the art, and get absorbed. Really nice. So she had those tapes copied onto regular cassettes. The little, the little ones that you use for dictating. I mean, I have those machines. So those special little tapes would come, and they would immediately copy them so she could hear them. And those tapes survived. The other tapes were sent back to Prabhupada. He was very frugal, and he reused those tapes. That's why we don't have any other tapes. But we do have about 85% of those tapes. So that's an invaluable resource. When you want to review the editing of the book, so there was one lady in Poland, a Polish lady who was living in Korsnäsgard, which is in Sweden, where all the books are produced. And so she sat down, and for a month or more, she listened to the tapes and read the book. And she's listening to the tapes and looking at the book, and she said, wait a minute, what's on the book is not exactly what's on the tape. And so she would make a notation when she saw some discrepancy. And so I had those notations with me, and I looked at what was written. And so one of them was, I don't know how familiar you are with Krishna's pastimes, but you should read Krishna book. So, of course, it has three divisions, the Vrindavan Leela, the Mathura Leela, and the Dwarka Leela. Now, in the Dwarka Leela, it's mostly, a lot of it's centered on Krishna and his interaction with the queens, because he married 16,108 queens. So there's a lot. But the main queen is Rukmini. So Rukmini had a very submissive attitude. Some of the queens were more like left wing, right wing gopis. I don't know if you know. The right wing gopis are very submissive. They're under Chandrabali. The left wing are under Radharani, and they become combative with Krishna sometimes. Anyway, so one of the queens was Rukmini, and she was very submissive to Krishna, but he wanted to see her argue with him. So Krishna said, one day he's sitting there, and he says, you really should have married somebody else, because who am I? I'm just a cowherd, and these other suitors of yours, they're great kings, and besides, I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm completely aloof from all my queens and all this stuff, So Rukmini, she was shocked, and she fainted. Rather than get angry, which is what he wanted her, she just fainted away under the couch, So Krishna realized, oh boy, I made a big mistake. So he manifests two other arms. So now he's got four arms, and with two arms he's encouraging her, and with the other arms he's wiping her face, And so he explained to her, it's just a big mistake. I was just teasing. So he said. So then she realized what he wanted, that for her to argue with him. So then she has this whole soliloquy, which is really amazing, where she takes everything he said, and she agrees with it, but she agrees with it by interpreting it in a different way. It's very clever. You read the I forget which. Maybe we can look up the reference. So in the middle of that, she says something like this. Says, look, as far as accepting some other husband, anyone who doesn't, what she actually said is, anyone who has never relished the fragrance of your lotus feet must accept as a husband simply a bag, full of bones and blood and flesh. You know what I mean? It's really kind of graphic, So she says that twice about relishing the fragrance of your lotus feet. But what Prabhupada said on the tape, using his British English, was tasting the flavor of your lotus feet. Flavor meaning fragrance, tasting meaning relish, you see? Now, for the life of me, I first read that back in 73. The Krishna book came out in 70, so we're reading the original Krishna book. And I don't think there was one devotee who read that who didn't think that, well, that's far out, and that makes sense. All the queens are kissing Krishna's lotus feet and relishing the fragrance of the lotus feet. Tasting the flavor. But that's not what Prabhupada meant. So there's similarly, that flavor for fragrance has come out here in the Bhagavad Gita. But since this book came out, let's look at our edition here. I think it's 2013. It's been 6 years. These, by the way, these books were donated by a nice devotee who was here. I don't think anyone remembers. Varun was an Indian fellow who was a regular, and he lived nearby. And then he's been in India for... Yeah, this is the 2013 edition. So the latest editions say everything in the material world has a certain fragrance, as the fragrance of a flower, the earth, and water, and fire, and air. I don't know how fire has a fragrance, but anyway, it does. So the idea is that, you know how if you walk out in the forest, you know, if the day is a little bit, there's a little bit moisture in the air, you know, there's a certain fragrance there, not just in the earth, but also the leaves and everything. You know, it's a pine forest, whatever. So that's what Krishna is saying. The original, unique fragrance, natural fragrance of things. I am that. The heat and fire, okay, the life of all that lives, the penances of all the ascetics. So it really is talking about the quality, the essence of certain things. I am that thing. And we experience these, maybe not all of them every day, but these are common experiences that we have. And the idea is that wake up, try to see me in everything. There's a similar chapter in the second canto, the first step in God realization. And the same idea is there, teaching us how to see God in our environment. And this brings in the idea of the Vishwarup, or the universal form. Not exactly the universal form in the 11th chapter here, but seeing the universe as a form of God. Now, it says right in the Bhagavatam that this is kind of an imaginary thing, you know, but it still helps us to come to the idea of the personality of Godhead, and that nothing is separate from God. You see the sun, you see the moon, and see that as the eyes of God. The mountains are the bones, and the rivers are the veins, you know, like that. And in this way, I remember once flying back from the East Coast or somewhere, you know, you look out the window, and there's the Badlands, you know, the practically uninhabited lands of the desert, I don't know what, Mojave Desert or something. There's a certain part of the geography in America where there's hardly any houses, and there's just a lot of geology, you know, there's mountains over there and a river there, but there's no people. And suddenly, you know, I thought of that universal form. Wow, this is quite a creation here. You know, there's an intelligence behind it, and like that. So that's what we're dealing with here. Krishna is describing, and you can continue with this in with a couple of more verses. And basically, it's the idea that training us how to see. If we remember these verses, then next time we take, you know, a sip of water. Prabhupada famously, he's sitting in 26 Second Avenue. You know, that's the first temple. And he was there for months, and giving talks in the evening. You know, and very happy to have his own place and his own audience. You know, and he's training the first devotees. So there were many people came, and they would come for the kirtan, you know, and then stand up and leave. You know, when Prabhupada started speaking, you know, they didn't want the philosophy. But there was a good crowd. So Prabhupada had already lived on the Bowery, and you know, sometimes he had to step over these passed out drunks who were blocking the door. You know, just imagine this great soul, you know, had to do all that. This is Prabhupada's austerity. So he was fully aware that there was a lot of drinking going on, and some people. So one day, this drunken guy, half drunken, I don't know, we call him the homeless guy. He stumbles into the storefront, and Prabhupada says, "Don't disturb them." So he goes out, and he comes back a few minutes later, and he's got some paper towels and some toilet paper. And he comes in, and he goes into the bathroom, and he puts them there, and this is for you, you know, and he steps out and he leaves. And Prabhupada said, just see, he's not in order, but he wanted to do some service. So this is to his, you know, his great credit, you know. So I don't know if it's there or a little later. He says, so I'm requesting, even if the drunkards, if they just remember that when they drink that wine, if they remember that Krishna is the taste of the wine, that one day they'll become great devotees, you know what I mean? So the idea is that this is applicable to anybody. We always taste water. We always have some fragrances, the light of the sun and the moon. So in our everyday experiences, we can remember, oh, Krishna is the energy there. You know, he's provided that, and that way it reminds us of Krishna, first step in God realization. So that's what we're dealing with here. Let's go on with the seed. Bijamam savabhutanam Vidhi Partha Sanatanam buddhimatamasmi, tejasvinamaham. O son of Prita, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. Purport. Bija means seed. Krishna is the seed of everything. There are various living entities, movable and inert. Birds, beasts, men, and many other living creatures are moving living entities. Trees and plants, however, are inert. They cannot move, but only stand. Every entity is contained within the scope of the 8,400,000 species of life. Some of them are moving, and some of them are inert. In all cases, however, the seed of their life is Krishna. As stated in the Vedic literature, Brahman, or the Supreme Absolute Truth, is that from which everything is emanating. Krishna is the Para-Brahman, or the Supreme Spirit. Brahman is impersonal, Para-Brahman is personal. Impersonal Brahman is situated in the personal aspect. That is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, he's referring to text 26 of the 14th chapter. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Krishna says, I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman. Therefore, originally, Krishna is the source of everything. He is the root. As the root of a tree maintains the whole tree, Krishna, being the original root of all things, maintains everything in this material manifestation. This is also confirmed in the Vedic literature, Katha Upanishad 2.2.13, Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yobadadati kaman. We had that before here. Yeah, at the end of the purport to the 6th verse, Prabhupada cited the same verse. What this means is Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitanam. He is the prime eternal among all eternals. He is the supreme living entity of all living entities. And he alone is maintaining all life. One cannot do anything without intelligence, and Krishna also says that he is the root of all intelligence. Unless a person is intelligent, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So as far as seeing the seed or the bija, in the 14th chapter, Krishna says, Sarva yonishu kontaya murtayak sambhavandaya tasam brahma bhadyoni aham bijam pradakshita aham bija. I am the seed-giving father, and I impregnate all these living entities into the Brahman, the Mahatattva, the material nature, and that's where they come out. So we're all children of God. This is the real basis of true brotherhood, of breaking down all of these bodily distinctions that cause so much havoc in society. You know, I mean, ultimately we're all spirit souls. Previous life, you could have been a brahmachari, and I could have been a Montessori teacher. I mean, the thing is, it's changing, ever changing. But in the 2nd chapter, Krishna says, "Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya," that ultimately, just as we give up our old clothes and get new clothes, we give our old bodies and get new bodies. So therefore, don't freak out. In other words, don't think, oh, I'm coming to an end, I'm coming to an end. Nobody comes to an end. There's no end. We have the only question is, what kind of body are we going to inhabit? What kind of garment are we going to be wearing? So if it's purely spiritual, then that's our swarup. It's not a garment anymore. That's our real self. Underlying all of it, we're persons. We're persons with senses, spiritual senses and activities. But that's all been covered now. It's time immemorial. So these are the ways in which we can uncover this process of bhakti. Okay, just one note on this verse, which is quoted again and again. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam. So nitya is singular. Nityanam is plural. Chaitana is singular, Chaitanam is plural. So Nityaha Chaitana means one eternal conscious being. Chaitana is a conscious being. So of all of the unlimited numbers of eternal conscious beings, there's one, Eka, who is Vidadati Kaman, giving the necessities to all the others. In other words, I'm not supplying your necessities, and you're not supplying my necessities. But there is one conscious being, person, who is supplying all the necessities. Where are we getting the air? Where are we getting the water? Where are we getting the food, the clothes, and everything else? It's coming from God. It's coming from Krishna. So that's the unique quality, one of the unique qualities of the Supreme Lord. Okay, moving on. Balam balavatam chaham kamaraga vivarjitam dharmavaruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshabha. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles, O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna. Purport. The strong man's strength should be applied to protect the weak, not for personal aggression. Similarly, sex life, according to religious principles, dharma, should be for the propagation of children, not otherwise. The responsibility of parents is then to make their offspring Krishna conscious. So, there's a joke here that I learned, that the importance of editing. One little comma can change the whole thing. The second sentence here, I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles. If you put a comma after life, what do you get? I am sex life which is not contrary to religion. It means that any sex life is not contrary. You understand? That one little comma changes the whole thing. But here Krishna is saying that I am sex life, but don't think it has to be according to dharma. Dharma avaruddho. Viruddha means against dharma. Avaruddha means not against religious principles. Dharma avaruddha. You see that? In other words, according to religious principles. What are those religious principles? So Prabhupada, he had many household disciples, and they were encouraged just to have sex for having children and for having Krishna conscious children. In other words, that's the dharmic way of having a marriage. So marriage is not discouraged, but it has to be according to the rules and regulations in order to be within the realm of Krishna conscious activity. So here's Krishna identifying with it. Now in the previous line, he's saying, Kamaraga vivarjitam, I am the strength that is devoid of kama, just ordinary passion and attachment. Now, we see so many demons in Krishna's Leela. Their strength is anything but devoid of that. They're exercising their strength, trying to increase their strength, perform yoga, get some siddhis, powers, in order to dominate others and enjoy. In other words, it's full of kama and raga. So Krishna doesn't identify himself with that kind of strength. But the strength that Arjuna exhibited, or Yudhishthira exhibited, or Bhima exhibited on the battlefield, Krishna is empowering them. He's encouraging them, and he is indeed that strength, because it's being used for dharma. It's free of mundane attachment. The whole purpose was to reinstitute virtue in the world, in the person of Yudhishthira. So they're fighting for that great cause. And indeed, American or any country likes to try to create a history or myth about itself that yes, we fought in so many wars, but it was all for bringing good to the world. And that's why the soldiers are exalted, because they're fighting on the side of good, right? And sometimes it's just a myth. But Krishna says, yes, in this particular battlefield and this battle that will take place was on one side, free of kama and raga. But on the other side, it was full of kama and raga. They wanted the kingdom unjustifiably, Duryodhana and company. So here's Krishna's even, identifying himself with violence or strength in the side of good, and sex when it's in dharmic sex. So then he kind of sums up this whole passage here, and so that's text 12. Ye chaiva satvika bhava rajasas tamasaschihi matta eveti tan vidhi natvaham teshu te mahi. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. Purport. All material activities in the world are being conducted under the three modes of material nature. Although these material modes of nature are emanations from the Supreme Lord, Krishna, he is not subject to them. For instance, under the state laws, one may be punished But the king, or the lawmaker, is not subject to that law. Similarly, all the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are emanations from the Supreme Lord, Krishna. But Krishna is not subject to material nature. Therefore, he is nirguna, which means that these gunas, or modes, although issuing from him, do not affect him. That is one of the special characteristics of Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, it is said, Etadishanam ishasya prakriti tadgunai. Etadishanam ishasya. Yeah. Prakriti tadgunai saha. Nayujyate sadatma sam yata buddhis tarashraya. I missed a few words, but the idea is this. This is the divinity of the divine. This is in the Bhagavatam, first canto. Etad Ishanam, the divinity of the Isha, of the Ishasya, is that even though he appears and he seems to be within the material modes of nature, he's not affected by the modes of nature, because they're actually within him. Similarly, the intelligence of those who take shelter of him is also not affected by the modes of nature. At the end of the 14th chapter, which is all about the modes of nature, Arjuna wants to know what are the qualities of one who is transcendental to the modes, and what are his activities, and how does he transcend the modes. So the answer to the third question is Mam Chiyova Bicharya Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunan Samatita Brahma Bhuya Kalpate. This Brahma Bhuya is this Tatpadam I mentioned earlier, is a position above the modes of nature, a position of peace, equanimity, and natural joy of heart. Brahmabhuta Prasannatma. No anxiety, no limiting. So the means of getting there, there's no mystery, is undeviating devotional service to Krishna. He says, Mam Chiyo Avabhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate. So Krishna is eternally on that platform beyond the modes. He's independent, as it says here. The modes are within him. And those who link their consciousness to him by the process of bhakti, they also are naturally existing beyond the modes of nature. They're in what is called the Shuddha Sattva state, pure goodness. So that's really where we want to try to aim for. We should aspire to be in that platform. It's not easy to get there. But Krishna will describe in the next couple of verses, on the text 14, how one can cross beyond these modes. Now, also, we should remember that guna can also mean rope. And guna can mean rope also, as well as qualities in the modes of nature. So, these three gunas, the mode of ignorance, passion, and goodness, they're kind of binding us to this world. Daiviyesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. Duratya means very hard to cross beyond this material energy, which is composed of these three modes of nature. But those who surrender to me can easily cross beyond it. So that's another very often quoted verse is coming up in a couple of verses. We have a few minutes, and maybe we can. What were we reading? The Nectar of Instruction. Quite a ways back, you remember? It's true, but it's ever fresh. Let's see if I can call it up. I've got it. We should try to. We don't want to just leave it hanging like that. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Too many marks. Here it is. Okay. But where are we? We are in text 3. Okay, finishing it up. So, the text is things to be avoided in the process of devotional service. Let's see. No, I think we passed that. I didn't change it. Let's just read the fourth verse. These are the things that further devotional service, that help us to advance in devotional service. No, I'm sorry. This is the verse. Okay, let me just read the translation here. Utsaha nishtayaddayat tattat karma pravartanat. There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. 1 is being enthusiastic. 2, endeavoring with confidence. 3, being patient. 4, acting according to regular principles, such as hearing and chanting and remembering Krishna. 5, abandoning the association of non-devotees and following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. So now, if we go to my book, in order to be successful in devotional service, one must give up the association of undesirable people. This is the last of the principles. No, this is the second to last. The last one is following in the footsteps of the great acharyas. This includes karmis, gyanis, and yogis. In other words, fruit of workers, mental speculators, and dry meditators. And other non-devotees. Once Lord Chaitanya was asked by one of his household of devotees about the general principles of Vaishnavism, as well as the general routine activities of a Vaishnav, and Lord Chaitanya immediately replied, Asatsanga tyaga e Vaishnava achar. Characteristically, a Vaishnav is one who gives up the association of worldly people or non-devotees. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has therefore recommended Tandara Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanevas. One has to live in the company of pure devotees and execute the regular principles laid down by the previous acharyas, namely the 6 Goswamis, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. If one lives in the association of devotees, there is little chance of associating with non-devotees. The International Society of Krishna Consciousness is opening many centers just to invite people to live in the company of devotees and practice the regular principles of spiritual life. Now you have to realize that at this time when Prabhupada wrote this, which is like 1976, the movement is basically a series of temples and with people living nearby, and most of the devotees living in the temples, So that's why you mentioned this. But still, the principle is valid. You can't, obviate the principle, and that is that the best way to advance quickly is to live with those who are practicing devotional service. It's just a truth. Devotional service means transcendental activities. On the transcendental platform, there is no contamination by the 3 modes of material nature. This is called Vishuddha Sattva. I mentioned that. The platform of pure goodness, or goodness free from contamination by the qualities of passion and ignorance. In this Krishna conscious movement, we require everyone to rise early in the morning, by 4 o'clock, and attend Mangalarti, or morning worship. Then read Bhagavatam, perform kirtan, and so forth. Thus we hold continuous activities in devotional service 24 hours daily. This is called Sato Vritti, or following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas who expertly filled every moment of time with Krishna conscious activities. Okay, so we'll stop there and pick that up probably next Monday. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. Update this. And we have to rush. Okay. All right.